In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 back to school mindset essentials. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm framing this as a mindset essentials because I think these 5 things that I'm going to share with you are going to be really helpful for getting back into school and creating a helpful or healthy balance between all of the things that you have to do for school and also maintaining your peace, maintaining your personal internal balance, and also prioritizing your little joys, your interests, things like that. I think these are some tips that I would have absolutely needed when I was going to school. There was definitely not a good balance when I was going to school. And so I think these very simple tips, they're very simple by the way, are going to help kind of shift the way that you look at some of the things that I talk about and help you maintain the balance that you'll probably lose track of because you're going to be so busy with all of the school things. I know how it is. Okay, so tip number 1 is to get enough sleep. This is the number 1 thing I wish I could go back to past me and tell myself. I was definitely the person that did all-nighters, and I would do it very, very often. It's not good. It is not good for your mental health. It is not good for your physical health. So just please prioritize sleep. I know a lot of students these days actually do this, so I'm really, really happy to see that shift in the way that, students approach their work. But if you're on the side of where I used to be, just make sure that you're getting a sufficient amount of sleep. It is going to do a lot of good. It helps you recover, it helps you reset, it helps kind of flush out everything from the day prior so that you can start new. And I promise you, you're going to feel a lot better mentally and physically, and you're going to be really, really set for a productive and successful following day, which is what you need when you're in school quite often throughout the entire year. Okay, tip number 2 is to get supplies that excite you. For majority of my school career, I used to just get really bland, boring school supplies, and sometimes that's all that we have access to. But if you are able, try to get some supplies that excite you and are really appealing to look at, because when I started to do this eventually, I felt much more excited and much more looking forward to pulling out my supplies and going to school and actually using my supplies. It's one little detail that you might think is unimportant, but in today's day and age where there's a bunch of really cool and trendy types of products that do align with school supplies, I feel like we should take advantage of that. We should be using the things that we actually like and want to use. And so lean in on that. Tip number 3 is to choose a note-taking style that actually works for you. So you might see your peers using digital note-taking. You might see your peers using a laptop. You might see them using an iPad. You might see people using a pen and paper. That is 100% fine, but you need to identify what style actually works for you. So for example, I was really big on wanting to use a laptop when I got into college because this is going to age me, but when I started college or when I was in the midst of college, laptops weren't really a thing. We weren't really allowed to use laptops. It was kind of new in the academic space. So once I was able to finally use a laptop, that's all I wanted to use. However, I am not the greatest with taking digital notes on a computer. I can do it on an iPad, but trying to force myself to use a computer just for the sake of using the computer because I was able to was not actually effective for me. And so I ended up having to revert back to a pen and paper, a regular spiral notebook, and that actually worked for me and that helped me absorb the information. So just play around, experiment, and see what works best for you, and then go with that, even if it's not necessarily what everyone else is doing around you. Because at the end of the day, that is what's going to help you pass the class, and that is much more important than just following what everybody else does. Okay, tip number 4 is to make study sessions a vibe. This is a tip that is very, very reminiscent of my quarterly review videos. I do quarterly reviews for my personal progress, my personal goal progress, but I got the idea from schoolwork and also from like actual going to a job kind of work. Those things definitely exist in those spaces, and so that's how I was able to carry it over into my personal goals space. And so whenever I'm doing a personal quarterly review, I know it might seem daunting, it might seem boring, it might not seem appealing, so I make it into a vibe. I make myself a cup of coffee, I get myself a sweet treat, I turn on a feel-good playlist. I just make things really, really positive so that I'm looking forward to that quarterly review. And the same goes for this tip, which is making study sessions a vibe. Studying is not necessarily the best. It's not necessarily fun or something that you would look forward to for most people. Other people may look forward to that, or they may have like a whole setup already, which is great. For those who do not have a setup, consider making one this year. That can look the same as what I was talking about with my quarterly review, with getting yourself a sweet treat, a coffee, and putting on a feel-good playlist. But you can also turn your study sessions into a group study, so you can hang out with your friends while also studying. That helps you hold yourself accountable. You can do quizzes. You can use really fun programs and apps these days that make or turn studying into something that you can gamify, and you can play games while also learning. So there are so many options that you can do right now to make study sessions a lot more fun. Even digital note taking, I think, could be considered fun because you can make them look really cute, almost like a bullet journal. So find something that works for you. Once again, experiment. Maybe try something new every time you have a study session and see what vibes with you the most, but try to make it a positive experience so that you want to continue to study and do well in school. Okay, and then the last tip is to create space for your individual interests. Now, this is where the whole work-life balance comes into play, because all of the other 4 tips are very related to actual school and getting schoolwork done, but we have to remember that you do have a life outside of school. You do have an identity and interests outside of school, and so when school starts, you do not have to allow schoolwork to completely consume you. If you are able to follow the other 4 tips and create a really nice balance, I think you will free up a lot of mental space and mental capacity to do the things that you always love doing, especially in the summertime. I think when I was younger, I really loved summer, and you all know that summer is my least favorite season now, but we love summer, or I loved summer, because that was the time that I got to actually do the things that I like to do, and then the rest of the year would just be dedicated to schoolwork. We don't necessarily have to carry on that way. We can find ways to free up some time, free up some space, even if it's just for a few minutes a week, a few minutes a day, to prioritize our fun things. Play a game, or hang out with friends, or go to a coffee shop, or go to a bookstore. Whatever it is that is interesting to you, you can still implement those things into your daily and weekly routines while still going to school and while still doing well in school. So just make sure that you're creating that space. If you need tips on that, I have so many videos on slow living for busy people. And while those videos are typically curated for adults, I do think that it 100% applies to busy students and busy young adults as well. So definitely check those videos out, and that will help you create even just a 15-minute routine throughout your entire day that will instill that slowness, instill that peace and your little joys, which is extremely important when it comes to balance and burnout, and making sure that you're prioritizing yourself and your mental health, in addition to doing well with whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's a school, an assignment, a project, whatever it may be. Okay, friends, I hope this video made sense when I was talking about mindset essentials. I hope these things kind of clicked in your head and you can see how you can look at the topics that I talked about in a different perspective, in a shifted perspective, a slightly adjusted perspective, so that it's not so overwhelming, it's not so scary. School doesn't have to be all consuming, and it shouldn't be. And I'm here if you have any other questions. If you want some more back to school videos, definitely let me know. I just decided to do this one video because I was kind of thinking of past me and what tips I would have needed back when I was in school. I do miss school a lot, but then when I think about these tips, I do remember how much I messed up in school when it comes to my mental health. So hopefully these are helpful to you, and best of luck in your school year. Let me know what you're studying, if you're studying a specific topic or field or major. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you in next week's video.